Hello, welcome back to All For United WFC. First match reaction of the season. And yes, the rumours are true. Barry was doing his hair. That's why we're a little bit over time today. Marcus, you're bang on in terms of that. But yes, of course, we're always a bit late on here. It's what happens now on these things. But yeah, I'm glad three of us are back talking about the game on Saturday. It's 48 hours on. And yes, 3 goals to talk about, 3 different scorers and all those kind of things. And a clean sheet on opening day as well, which is nice to see. Some of you have already referenced this in the chat. We are going to briefly touch on something you may have seen on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok as well, because I post on there as well. We have been nominated again for the second year running in the Football Content Awards in the Best in Women's Football Creators category once again. So I guess for myself, first off, obviously that's a massive thank you for myself to anyone who nominated us, because you will notice we didn't push anything anywhere. We didn't post about it this year or do anything like that. So people who have nominated us, you've done it off your own accord this year. So massively appreciate that. And obviously for the judges for selecting us, because it was a different process this year in terms of how the finalists were chosen. So thank you all very much for that. In terms of how you can vote and things like that, I'll bring up 3 things for you. This is going to be very fast and I'm going to move on, unless these still got anything else to say on it. There's 3 ways you can vote this year. It only counts 1 per account. So if you vote on Twitter and then you vote on Instagram, it's not going to count. There's 2 votes. It's only going to count as 1. So the first way is Instagram. I'm going to move that way. This post by the Football Content Awards, Best of Women's Football Creators, just need to tag us below. So you can do it that way. There's a link in the bio and you can go and go to this category. I was going to say I can't really get on the screen here, but the Best in Women's Football, scroll down to Creators and you'll see us in the drop down there, or WFC, or you can do what these amazing people have done on Twitter. There's quite a few of them that have done this already, so here we go. I'm shouting out some of your Twitter @s here, and you just need to type that in. I am voting in the FCAs for All For United WFC in the Best in Women's Football, and that's literally it. So 3 ways to vote. It's totally up to you. You don't have to vote at all. It would be massively appreciated if you did, but that's how you do it on that one. Should we move on? Have you got anything to add, or are we good to go to get into the game there?
I'm loving the questions, first of all. So I'm pleased people are happy with the hair. That took me literally seconds. I've never been asked a question like this before online.
I'm so glad he asked.
I genuinely don't know how old I physically am. I know that, how tall I am, because it fluctuates apparently. But I believe at the last time of measuring, because I don't measure myself very often now, there's not much point. It was about 5'1" So I don't know. It was 5'2.5", but I think I've started shrinking now. So I'm on the downward spiral there. So it was nice while it lasted. So there we go. That's where I am. I also need to just point out a little something. And I know I do this sometimes, but genuinely, I don't always think I do it justice, because I'm often sat here looking for the laugh and the giggle. But I think now is an appropriate time to just take a moment and be genuinely serious, because people don't see what goes on when this camera is off. They really don't. For you guys, it's great. You get the chance to see us pop on here and you see a bit of, chit chat here. We all laugh at the fact that Connor's 5 minutes late because he just can't work it out. All of that. We do all of that. Not a problem. But genuinely what's going on behind the camera, the amount of work this chap has to put in is absolutely insane. This isn't just, it was just a hobby, but it's a passion for him. It really is. And the effort that he has to put himself into, it's crazy. That the work that he's done in getting the statistics together, how he puts the shows together, the networks of people that he's managed to get, all of those things are quite something. But it's the amount of time he puts on it. To be posted on Twitter, that's all him. I don't touch Twitter. I just leave that alone for him, and it's flying. If I can't get hold of him, I know I've got to go on TikTok live, because he's probably on there chatting to hundreds of people that just won't leave him alone, if I'm honest with you. And it's consistent. You go to a match with him, he was saying, it's a shame you weren't there at the weekend. Honestly, I hate going to the football with Connor now, because you've just got to sit there like a lackey, just sort of stood in the background like, well, are you ready, master? Can we carry your cape a little bit further for you, sir? It's not the greatest, but genuinely, the level of effort this chap's put in on this channel is crazy, and the payoff for him and for all of us is the fact that there's so many of you now, that there's so many watching, so many subscribers, so many people on Twitter and all of that. But honestly, I can't tell you the amount of effort this chap puts in there. So, whether we get bronze again or do any better this year, it's irrelevant. And the fact that we've got 2 channels as a whole that have gone into this year is quite something. I take a bit more credit for the second one, but this one, it's all Connor. So well done, you, sir. It is a very deserved accolade just to be nominated.
No, absolutely. I echo that last bit as well. But no, I appreciate that. As I said, it's a passion project for me. Even to the point where, for those of you who saw the Get to Know United Women thread that I did with those graphics that I made that 2:30 that morning because I decided at midnight I'm going to do this, and then made the graphics at 2:30 that morning. So I didn't get much sleep Thursday into Friday, but there we go. But it was worth it. As you said, when I see everyone at games, I will apologise. If you saw me on Saturday, I was a bit worse for wear. So if you did come over and you're one of those people that came over, particularly before the game, I apologise. I was not very talkative. That's on me. Very much self-inflicted, but there we go. But yes, seeing everyone in the chat and everything else is just absolutely brilliant. There's so many regulars now. It's just incredible, which is amazing to see. So as Barry says, whatever happens is what it is now. I'm amazed that we've been nominated again, as Barry said, both channels, with the women's football one in there as well, is unbelievable. So this has become the staple of the channel, that is for sure. But there we go.
I can't tell you how much I hope they serve us a burger that night because I think there's a very real chance I might go to this one because it's a bit closer. And frankly, if I see there is a burger on the menu, I will shove it in his face myself with my hands. It's taken that long, and I will get Andrew Wall to film it. I guarantee you. If I go, he's eating a burger. It's happening. I don't care how we do it. It will happen. Even if I've got to absolutely get him within an inch of his life of alcohol so that he does it that way, it will happen.
There we go. So something to look forward to for us all. But there we go. Charlie, have you got anything to add, or are you happy if we just move on to the game now?
I concur with everything Barry said. There we go.
It's very diplomatic of you, very well. There we go. That's good to say. Michael, yes, she was. She literally walked right past me and him at the end of the game. So, yes, she definitely was there. Sat over in the stands. Right, let's get into the game then. I'm going to bring it through. I know there's a lot of comments already that I've not gone through, so I'm going to bring all those up while I ask the first question, while I go through those. Charlie, I'll come to you first. In terms of the lineup, we do this on every match reaction. This was probably the most intrigued lineup because we knew there was going to be changes. Obviously, we were pretty certain the Fallon was going to be the keeper, but outside of that, there was a lot of positions and players where you're like, oh, will they start? What's the formation going to be? And all that kind of thing. Is that the team you thought you were going to see lining up on Saturday?
Oh, no, not at all. I think I when I gave my predicted lineup last Monday, I think it was, wasn't it? It was nowhere near that. I mean, there was obviously players in there that I predicted, but a lot of them not also playing where I thought they would play. So it was really interesting. But it was nice to see them clearly trying something different, and it went fairly well. So it's clearly something that they've been working on. And it was good to see the sort of change in formation and how they adapted depending on whether they were in possession or not. So yeah, it was a surprise. But it went well enough, didn't it? First game of the season, and they performed well. I'll always want to see Melvine Mallard. That she's the only one disappointed that didn't get on the pitch, really. And obviously it was a shame for Sandberg not to quite be fit yet or not to quite be ready. But yeah, unusual lineup, but it worked well, and I suppose that's what matters, really. No,
absolutely. And Barry, you put two kind of lineups forwards when we did this show last Monday in terms of what we think might happen. As I said, on paper, it looked like it was a kind of a back four, and this is something we'll dive into a bit later on when we talk about the system and things like that. Is that the kind of lineup that you expected, wanted to see? What's your kind of thoughts on that when that came out?
Well, Condog, I was firstly quite proud of the fact that the first lineup that I put up was effectively correct, I believe, bar one, because I didn't have Millie Turner in the team. So the number of people I got, thank you very much, Mike, was quite good. I'd also like to point out that I was the only person I think that put Leah Galton in the side, and I'm feeling incredibly proud of myself for doing that. So there we go. But no is the answer. I didn't fully expect it to be laid out the way that it was. There was a little part of me that thought that Dominique Janssen might end up moving into the midfield. But I wasn't confident enough with that idea that I would put that forward. But I was pleased with it because actually getting the triumvirate of Maya, Millie and DJ, I thought was really quite important. And actually having all three of them, I think is really good. So I sort of had an amalgamation of my two teams, really. But I think that's a nice thing because you think about every single session of this we've ever done. It was so easy, wasn't it? You're just always sitting there going, well, we know which four it's going to be. We know Zell's playing. We know the midfield's going to be. All that sort of stuff. We knew it. We could guess it pretty much every single time. Now, that's a bit trickier. And even if you do guess it, who's going where? As pleased as I was that Leah Galton played, I don't really want her to be our left back. That was probably my minor irritation, is the fact that we didn't have a left back playing in the left back position. But of course, Gabs was on the bench and came on. So I will put that down to just trying to ease her in gently, which is perfectly reasonable after almost a year off. So in summary, Condog, bloody brilliant, wasn't it?
Yeah, I would say so. We're going to get into the overall performance, I guess, in a little bit later on. But I think when I saw the team and so on, I was kind of like, just from everything I heard from pre-season, I wasn't surprised. It's kind of the way that I thought we were going to go down this season. I think we will continue to go down. I agree on Galton. I don't think that is going to be the long term, if I'm being totally honest. I think when Gabby is fully fit, I would imagine that Gabby takes that spot on the left-hand side. But, as you just referenced, Barry, she's coming back after a year out. She's going to need her minutes managed, because the last thing we want to see is what we saw happen with like Miedemar and Pateas and these kind of players that come back from an ACL. They play a lot from the start and then they get injured again and they have to have more surgery and out again. So she needs her minutes managed. I was reading a comment at the same time. Oh, life! Everything we just said at the start about the nominations just gone out the window now because I said that. Anyway, but there we go. And what's TJ saying there? Maybe Sandberg. Yeah, I mean Sandberg wasn't fully ready for this one. So again, another player that's kind of had injuries and things like that. She'll be there or thereabouts. But I think at the moment, again, it's just about managing. We had this last season when we had so many injuries. We can't have that again this season. So, yeah, I think that was definitely the right thing for her not to be in the matchday squad. But there we go. Right, let's talk about we are going to talk, like I said, about the system as a whole. That's a whole other topic at the end of the show. But I want to get through the goals because we did see Geyse get off the mark. And Charlie, I think that's where I want to start, because last season she got a lot of criticism that she didn't score many goals. I think it was either 2 or 3, I think, throughout the whole season in all competitions. So if she didn't score that many, she's already on 1 after 1 game. So I guess if you want to talk through that goal and the importance of the fact she's already off the mark 1 game in, whereas last season it took quite a few games for her to get that.
Yeah, I think that was key for her, particularly with how the season went for her. Really, last season she didn't seem to be flavour of the month, and she didn't play a lot of minutes, particularly in the run-in at the end of the season. She didn't start the FA Cup final, so she was one, if I'm being honest, that I thought may continue to not start games this season, even though I would have liked to. So I'm really glad she got her goal. But what I really liked about it, we might talk about it a little bit later, was the fact that it came from Maya Tizzy actually playing a ball forward with purpose. That was really key for me. She did that quite a lot throughout the game, Maya did, whereas last season, sort of a lot of her build-up play and her and a long switches of play and those sorts of things were quite ponderous and a little bit speculative. Whereas I felt like in the first game of this season, she was back to how she was in that first season, Maya, for us, where she was helping build up play and playing those balls forward. And that was what she did. And I think Geyse did really well. I think she was helped by Galton Clinton, I think worked really well on the right-hand side with her, which allowed for large parts of the game for Geyse to isolate the West Ham fullback, which is when she's best, isn't she, Geyse, when she's one-on-one. But I think she did really well to win that ball back when it looked like a bit of a no-hoper, really, on the byline, and then did really well to cut back inside and squeeze it between the near post and the keeper. So that was great for her. And she could have had 2 or 3, couldn't she? And on any other day, she might have done. But it's good for her to get a goal early. I know it's a bit of a cliche, but talk about some players being confidence players. I think she's probably one of those who, if she'd gone a couple of games without scoring, she might have found it increasingly difficult, particularly with Muzzy Bizzett chomping at the bit to get on, I suppose. But yeah, really good goal from her. But again, it was the things around it that pleased me as much. Maya's ball over the top, reminiscent a couple of seasons ago, and the job that Galton Clinton also does, occupying the centre backs to provide that little bit of space for Geyse. But yeah, it was a really good goal. It got us off the mark, and we were pretty comfortable after the first half from that point onwards.
Yeah, I mean, but there's a lot of love for obviously for Geyse in the chat as well. And I want to come back. I'll ask you the same question. So I want to come back to something Mark Skinner said, which I thought was very telling and a very good answer, actually, in terms of what he said about her after the game. So I want to come back to that as a separate point. Everyone's talking about the confidence and things like that. Is that kind of how you saw it? The fact that she's already off the mark, she looks a lot happier, she looks a lot more confident now, and how big of an impact that can have for the potential rest of the season?
I think confidence is a thing with all strikers, and I won't have it if anyone thinks it doesn't. You're always, in fact, just in life, I think you always do a little bit better when you're confident, not overconfident, but confident. And I don't know that we've seen a confident Geyse, if I'm honest with you, as yet. I think we've seen a Geyse that was settling in. To be in a situation where she started the season in the manner that she has is brilliant. She was working incredibly hard down that right-hand side. She was forward and backward, to be fair, putting a fair shift in, to be honest with you. And I think when she was getting the ball, she alternated between putting the ball into the box or running at players. And I just think it keeps people guessing. I mean, I always say this to the youngsters when they're playing, that you've got to be careful. If you just keep on doing the same thing, it's obvious where you're going to go and what you're going to do. And before long, you're really easy to defend against. Geyse wasn't easy to defend against. Sometimes she was, like I say, running into the box. Sometimes she was crossing the ball in. She was passing. She was doing all manner of things. And I just really think that showed. But I think the goal actually sort of summed up the team as a whole. We spoke about last week about winning the ball higher up the pitch. Well, you couldn't get much higher up the pitch to win the ball, to be honest with you, because you should have been about 3 centimetres further forward. The ball would have been on its way out. There's questions over the foul. Not too fast, to be honest with you. I think we saw a couple of those during the game that weren't given. At the end of the day, it's a consistent ref. If that's not given in our box, you don't want it given in their box or anywhere on the pitch. So I've got no problems with that at all. Superb finish once she won it as well. Potentially could have thought about passing it. In a way, I'm pleased she didn't, because you need to have that confidence, I suppose is the word we come back to again, to finish it off. So yeah, I think as far as Geyse goes, it's good to see that she's nipped in with the goal, and hopefully that's going to really set her up for the season. And I don't know whether or not she will get 10 or more, but it's a really good start.
No, absolutely. And she potentially could have had 2 in that first half as well. I think I'm thinking of the cross. It may have been Galton, I think, to put it in, and Turlin takes it off her, actually, which, to be fair, is what you want your striker to do. You want your striker in front of goal to be confident of. But looking back, Turlin's got to leave that. Geyse has got basically a tap in there, and she kind of Turlin almost gets in her way. So that's another one. And then, as everyone's mentioned in the chat, that overhead kick, to have the she's quite far away from the ball when it goes up in the air. And it's almost like she knows exactly what she wants to do with that before. As soon as it's like, I can't remember who it flicks off to go up in the air. But to go for, she hits it so clean. Usually when you see some kind of overhead kicks, and we had 2, I think, last season, one at Leicester away, and I can't remember when the other one was, but they were never really going to go in. They didn't really have the power or the accuracy. This had the power. It was just an inch too high on that one. So to have that confidence, and I actually thought she just pressed really well. And this is something we're going to come back to when we talk about the system. I thought overall she worked hard. It wasn't just like she was, last season she got criticised a little bit for not necessarily working hard off the ball. I think she did. Well, her goal comes from that because she chased down a ball that wasn't an amazing ball by Mayer, but it was Geyse's a bit, determination to run that ball down. And yeah, you can, like I said, that's what's going to be a bit annoying. Is sometimes that's going to be a foul, sometimes it's not going to be, because that's how inconsistent these things are. In my opinion, it shouldn't be, and it shouldn't be at any time. Let me just make that clear, whether that's against United or for us. So yeah, I'm really happy for her because I think she needed that, and I think you could see the whole team's reaction when she did score. It clearly means a lot to her, and that kind of leads me on to something while we're talking about her. Before I do, actually, player of the match poll is in the chat. Some people have been asking for that already. So you can vote for that. Speaking of Jay, she's in there with Grace Clinton, May Letitia, and Lisa Nelson is the 4 you can vote for this week. So yeah, get your votes in. We'll come back to that at the end of the show. But Mark Skinner spoke about Jace after the game. He got asked about her in terms of her performance and things like that. And I'll just read out what he said. He said, I thought she was excellent. I was asked earlier today, does Jace have to prove herself? She doesn't have to prove anything to anyone. We've got to be here to support her. She came with 4 or 5 days left of pre-season last year, didn't speak English. This year, she's learned about the people. She's learned about the language, and now she's in a space where I see her smile. If we have a Jace who is smiling, we have a Jace who is deadly, and that's my job to keep her in a position where she's enjoying the game. If we do that, we've got a superstar. And I think that's probably... this is going to sound a bit over the top, I think. In Mark's 3 years here, I think that's probably one of the best things he said, because I think she needs to hear that in terms of boosting her own confidence and things like that. And it's almost like what Barry said on the show last week about United against the world. That's very much what that is. Protect the players, and anyone else can say what they want about her. It doesn't matter. Let's back her while she's here. And that's how I've kind of read it. Charlie, is that kind of how you, when you saw those comments about her, and do you think again that she needs things like that to keep that confidence going, throughout the season?
Yeah, of course. I think that's always been the United of old way, hasn't it? Is that it's a bit of a siege mentality. It's us against everyone. I think you're right. I think I would like to think maybe he's learned a bit from the last couple of seasons when we think back to what happened with VBR and how he spoke about her, and I think lots of the fan base quite rightly have not been comfortable necessarily a lot of the time with how he's spoken about players and their performance. So I think to come out and say something like that will do him a lot of good with regards to how people view him. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't even like she needed protecting, was it? She genuinely had a brilliant performance. There was nothing else he could say. But I just hope he maintains that approach to how he deals with them in the public eye when maybe things aren't going as well at points in the season. But yeah, he's right. And there probably is mileage in what he said about, joining the team late last year, not knowing the language. That all will have been difficult. And perhaps in hindsight, he didn't deal with her brilliantly. But yeah, I think it was absolutely the right thing to say, and it will do her the world of good. And hopefully she'll perform as well against lowly Everton. Ooh, touch wood, next week. We'll see.
I think that's it, isn't it, Brian? Because as you say, if you come to a new place anyway, it's always going to be a bit daunting. But when you don't speak the language and nobody else there spoke Portuguese at the time, I believe. So she didn't have anyone that she could really communicate with apart from the translator. So she couldn't really bond with the team in that respect. So I do think there was that kind of element. So do you think now we are going to see a better version of her, especially after what Mark has come out and said about her?
It's not easy. And, Jay's, to be honest, had a face like a smack bottom towards the end of last season. She really did. And I suppose it's 2 points. The first, like you said about Mark Skinner, it's amazing, isn't it? How much positivity will breed positivity. And that can only be, believe it or not, a positive thing. It's not about trying to blow smoke. It's literally about just trying to make sure that when you are within the club, supporting in the manner that we are, that it's a nice, positive atmosphere. Now, when I was probably about 10 years ago, just as I was getting into teaching. I might have been a bit more actually, 12. And I was off to university for the first time. We ended up going off to, you'll like this one, Sean, a little place in Wales. Don't ask me what it was called. It was a bunch of letters all strung together that didn't make any sense. But while we were there, we did a bit of canoeing, a bit of kayaking. And it was great. We went all the way down this river, the River Wye it was. And to be honest with you, I've never known of a greater named river, because there was a point where I was at the end of it going, why am I doing this? Because I love that sort of stuff. But what I don't do when I'm out on the water like that is wearing hearing aids. Now, in that time when I was out on that water, I told the guy that was running it all, I said, look, not being funny, I won't be able to hear a lot. Can you please, make sure you call us in close, let us know what's going on so I know what's happening, because I won't hear if you're just shouting all the way over there. And he's like, yeah, no worries, mate. I'll make sure you're always next to us when I've got something to say. Well, he went off, and then I didn't see him for the rest of the trip. There was me just driving along, not driving along, I wish I was driving, paddling along. And I use this story a bit in my teaching, because you genuinely don't know how hard it is to be so isolated when you're not communicating and you feel like you are out of the group. And I don't know if that's how it was for Geyse, but equally, what I do know is that when you don't feel part of something, whether that be through the fact that people are speaking in a different language, whether it's the fact that you can't hear it, it's a really horrible place to be. And it's quite hard to put a smile on your face if that's the way you're feeling. So actually having all of those thoughts, looking at this, and then listening to what Mark's got to say, as long as it's not just words, and that's actually part of what we're doing, confident, happy players will want to play for you. Now, if you sit there and slag them off in the press, they're not going to want to play for you, because they'll just be looking at that and going, oh, who's this idiot? But if you're nice about them in the press and you stick up for them, they're likely to want to fight for you. And that, Connor, is what Mark has learnt over the summer on his little trip to Benidorm, if indeed that's where he went. I'd like to see Mark Skinner at Benidorm. Could you imagine him on that TV show there with a little woman in the old mobility scooter? Oh, it'd be amazing. Good on Skinner. But anyway, so yes, it's vital. It's all part of us against the world. Absolutely.
I've got that in my head now. Like Madge off Benidorm and like oh God. But yes, you put that really well actually, and I agree, obviously. And yeah, hopefully this season we do see a better version of her, because I've always said her ability is not in doubt. It's the other things, I guess, that potentially comes with that. Moving across to the left-hand side then, where our second goal came from. Leah Galton on her right foot as well, which is not something we see too much of. Charlie, what did you make of this one then? Because it kind of, I'm not going to say it came out of nowhere, but like we weren't really on the attack at the time. It was kind of like a longish ball to Leah. She skips past a couple, and I'm thinking, oh, don't shoot, because it's on your right foot and you're on the edge of the box. But she shut me right up, because that was one hell of a finish into the bottom left corner there.
Yeah, do you know what though? I think other than last season, we've historically seen her score goals like that, where she drifts in from the left-hand side and sends a bit of a thunderbolt in. But yeah, she was like the definition of the attacking fullback. If you looked at what attacking fullback meant, you just needed to look at Leah Galton in the game on Saturday. But yeah, it was great from her. It was like old school her, wasn't it? But yeah, again, just before half time, which I think was an important time, when going two to the good, and it's then really, really difficult for West Ham to come back from that. But probably from the looks of things, doing what Mark Skinner would want her to do. So obviously, I think we said, Connie, you certainly said in your article at the cutback, mention that when we were in the possession of the ball, we were playing as a back three, and then Galton was really pushing up at those points, and that's where it came from really, because she was in such an attacking position. But the defenders just stepped off her, which I think is a madness. We've seen that numerous times, haven't we? Just stepping off. We saw it in the FA Cup final for Tooney. But yeah, it was a brilliant goal from her. Came at the perfect time. And probably fortunate, because it was a more difficult second half. So that cushion of 2 goals at half time was quite important. But yeah, great goal from her. One that we're used to seeing her score. Didn't end up on her backside. and scored with her right foot. So yeah, really, really chuffed for her. But again, someone that I thought was probably one of the players this season that I thought might end up being on the peripheries, and she still might. Like when Gabby George is ready to play a little bit more, when Anna Sandberg is back, you can't imagine that Leah Galton will have nailed down the left back position or the left wing back position. But yeah, really good for her to get that goal. I think generally, actually, her and Tooney played quite well together at times. When Tooney was a bit more disciplined and stayed more on the left-hand side, I actually think they played pretty well together. But yeah, I'm going off on a tangent now. I'm talking about other things. But yeah, great goal. Like I always love a sort of a 20-yard shot. They're my favourites, really. A bit of a one from distance. But yeah, good for her.
I feel like it's one of those where you would expect that. We know what Leah Galton's like going forward. That was never really a problem. I think the drama, as I said at the start, irked me a little bit that she was left back purely because, defensively, Leah Galton isn't necessarily trained for that sort of thing. But against West Ham, you can probably get away with that. But there's no question her attacking ability. That was why when I had my first team out on the screen last week, that's why she was there as my left wing slot, because you know what you're going to get with Leah Galton, and you know that a fully fit Leah Galton can terrorise defences. And that's exactly what she did. West Ham had absolutely no answer for what we were doing. The way that we were shifting that ball around, especially up towards the top, was just absolutely astounding. It was brilliant to watch. It really was. And that goal for Galton, superb. Like everybody else, my first thought was how she still stood up. That's not normal. But maybe that's the new and improved part of the team that we're looking at. The fact that she's got a bit more control over her shot. She's not just trying to leather it or force it in. It was just a really good goal. And like you say, to get in there on her right foot, get it past the goalkeeper, absolutely superb. I was absolutely buzzing for Leah Galton. It was one of those where, you'd hope that she was going to get there. I think all of us were hoping that Queen Elizabeth III would have started her reign with a goal. But to be honest with you, I've got no problem with Princess Leah doing it instead.
Yeah, I agree. I thought she was good throughout the game. I think she had probably a rough season last season, as to be fair, a lot of the players did. But 2 seasons ago, she was one of the better forwards that we had. She was in our player of the season conversation 2 seasons ago when I think Honor and Alessia got the top 2, and I think Galton came 3rd. So it shows that she is definitely in that conversation in terms of up there. It's just, I think for her, it's about staying fit and keeping that consistency. But as I said, I'm intrigued to see whether she continues playing when Gabby is up to full fitness and whether we see something move there on that one. What have I missed? I feel like I've missed something now. Have I missed something?
Oh, Connor, I know you know this one as well.
Oh no, what have I missed?
Queen Elizabeth III didn't score, but it was nice to see Princess.
Yeah, Princess Leia. That's what you said.
From
what are you on about?
Princess Leia.
You trying to do a Star Wars reference?
There you are. Well done.
All right.
God almighty. Everybody was really worried about you there. She's drinking out of a Star Wars cup.
Oh God, Amara's not.
Oh. Do you know what? That came up, and I was genuinely sat there going, "He knows this. He knows this. Like he's going to absolutely smash it." They're all going to be like, "Oh my God, he knows something." And that's an own goal at the highest level.
What a silly fart he is.
Oh, do you know? Oh, here we go. This is where the viewers get slashed in half. Do you want to know my opinion on Star Wars? I think the 3 very, very new ones are much better than the old ones. Which is usually the other way around. People can't stand the new Disney ones and really love the old ones. I don't.
What's your thoughts on Alec Guinness, Connor, the original Obi-Wan Kenobi? Oscar winner, legend, star of the silver screen.
Overrated.
Honestly, that and Queen. Oh my matters.
Oh. There we go.
We're losing people, Connor. We're losing people. They're hemorrhaging.
Oh, I'm gonna get some I'm gonna get some angry messages after this.
I don't even know what to say to you.
It's so
like,
hard, isn't it?
It's like it's an out of body experience sometimes, and I'm watching me and Barry having to have these conversations with you. It's bizarre.
It is bizarre. Do you know? It's like it was like being like a scout leader. As I said, I was talking to some kids about 10 years ago, and we was talking about September the 11th that had come up, and I mentioned it, and they all just looked at me and was like, "And what happened on September the 11th?" Because obviously in 2001 they hadn't been born, and that look that I got from them is what I just get from him every single time. I bring up, it's just like, what? And it's bizarre. I can't get it.
Next he'll be telling us like he doesn't know who, like, I don't know, Cilla Black is or something mad like that.
Okay, I know that one.
Okay, but that was just checking because that would have been it for me. I would have been gone. Leave. Do your own spreadsheet.
Listen, that only affects me. It's got nothing to do with him anymore.
Oh, yeah. I say we're getting slaughtered. I'm getting slaughtered in the chat here.
And rightly so.
Okay. For those of you who new around here,
can we do like a little Star Wars poll while we're on it? Whose hair is better, Connor's or Chewbacca?
Ooh, I'm gonna.
There's a correct answer to this.
We know.
Charlie, I can't believe it. I'm just gonna leave it. Look at not a single. You started now. Anyway.
Jonathan, you're my favourite.
Appreciate that, Joseph. You're not my favourite as well. Anyway, Clinton scored.
Whoa, he was so nice earlier. We put him in a timeout. Outrageous.
Michael, you can hardly talk.
I was going to say that's almost like John Davenport pointed as well. Like, we got a few that share a similar hair trait. I think that I'm watching this. Sorry, John, you're catching strays there. I don't know why I've just called you.
Friendly fire.
He's going to kill me for that next time I see him. Anyway, moving on. Clinton scored, Charlie, the third goal, not long after half time.
Go on, Hillary.
Again, it comes from us kind of winning the ball higher up. It's Lisa Nelson that intercepts the ball quite high up. Brilliant cross from her. But something I noticed on this one was Turlin's movement drags the centre back that is marking Grace out of the way. And Grace has essentially got a free header. So, yeah, if you want to talk about Grace's goal and just her overall performance, I think, because judging by the player of the match poll, she's pretty comfortably ahead. So I think people are agreeing that she was probably one of the better on the pitch. Would you stand by that as well as talking to her goal there?
Yes, I've written some notes on Grace Clinton. Someone who earlier asked if I was marking books. No, I wasn't. We're a non-marking school. We do live feedback and correction. I was not jotting some notes down about Grace Clinton. It's interesting what happens when you have more than one player in the box. How many times last year were we like, get in the box, someone get in the box? Like, it was so annoying because no one was in the box unless Rachel Williams was there, and she wasn't there often enough. So there was never anyone on the box. But yes, I did notice that. Having them both in there obviously split the centre-back pairing, didn't it? And I think Geyse was also not far away, slightly off screen, coming in off the right. So it gave West Ham something to think about. I thought the cross in from Lisa Nelson was absolutely delicious. It was a first-time cross, wasn't it? I think. So yeah, it was a good goal, good headed goal. But it was. I know Turlin's movement, which was good. I think maybe her performance has been underestimated in this game because she didn't score. It was good, but I think it was still pretty dreadful, pretty dire defending from West Ham to be in that situation. But yeah, it was great position. It was a really good directed header because she had to generate a lot of the power. The cross was really good. but it was more of a floated one, wasn't it? So Grace had to generate the power. I thought she had a really good game overall. I enjoyed her link-up play with Geyse. Like I said, I think Grace did a lot of work with regards to occupying the West Ham midfield, but also their centre-backs at time, I think I said earlier, which allowed Geyse to sort of torment an isolated West Ham fullback. I think she did that throughout the game. I also think she occupied the space very well. She found really good pockets of space. I think it got more difficult for her in the second half. We might talk about that soon. I think when the shape sort of started to collapse a little bit as they got further into the game. But I think she did really well. I think someone mentioned earlier it was almost a brand new midfield, wasn't it? The setup with Janssen being in there as well. Because the midfield last season was something that was very solid. We knew what it was going to be every single time without fail. So that was all very new and very different. But I thought she was everything that I hoped she would be when she came back. There was a little bit at the back of my head was thinking, oh no, what if she comes back having had 2 brilliant loan spells and it just doesn't work? Which is mad because it would have been the first game. But I thought she dominated the midfield for large parts. I still think there's question marks for me off the back of that game, whether her and Tooney will always play really well together. I think they occupy each other's spaces a bit. That's probably something for Skinner to think about if he wants to play them both. But overall, her performance was really good. I went for her, spoiler alert, in the player of the match poll. But yeah, her performance deserved a goal at the end.
I thought Grace was superb. We highlighted it at the very beginning, and I've got to be honest, I think she played herself into a starting lineup the minute she left Spurs. You know, we knew that she was going to be just a superstar for us, really, and that's exactly what she's turned out to be. The goal was superb, well taken. What I loved most about it was, at first, I wasn't sure she'd even headed it because there was nothing, no celebration at all. There was just like this moment where it all just stopped. I'm like, well, who scored that? And then she's like, oh yeah, it was me. Hey! And off they went. But I mean, a chat about Toon and Clinton. I know they can play. You know, the problem you've got there is that you're putting Ella Toon out on the left-hand side. And whilst it worked for the game that we were playing, it's not ideal. Now, I would guess that you would probably end up with the potential of Leah Galton going over there, or Melvin Mallard. We said before, we've got the strength in depth now. So we've got the ability to switch that about a bit and do different things to keep opponents guessing, horses for courses almost, because you can decide who and when you use them. But yeah, I didn't have a problem with it. You know, I know there's some people here that are quite negative about the game. I think that's mostly from the second half, because the second half was not quite as pleasing on the eye as the first. But generally, for the course of 90 minutes, it was a very good performance. You know, West Ham didn't really worry us too much. There was, I think, one just before half time that Fallon had to turn around the post, which was quite a good save from an unexpected shot. But in all honesty, Grace Clinton has done exactly what we expected Grace Clinton to do. And I think that's what's so wonderful about the whole day, to be honest with you, was that everybody did just step up, do their job. And, you know, I would love more goals is my only, not criticism, but niggle, I suppose, out of it. I feel like we could have scored more and probably should have, based on the amount of time, possession and efforts that we had. But equally, I'll happily take the 3-0 win. That's 1 down, 21 to go. Title's coming home, lads.
Yes, I agree with all the first bits there. And in answer to your question, Amara, yes, I really wish I didn't tweet that. I was debating it. Like, do I tweet we're top of the league? And I thought, screw it, I'm doing it. I tweeted it literally within 60 seconds. Brian had scored a 4th. And I was like, great, well, I'm not editing the tweet now. It can stay there. Just correct myself underneath. But we were top of the league for 60 seconds. So
Connor does this. Just says stupid things. He just invites the temptation of the gods and the footballing gods every single time, put him in his place.
I was going to say, I did, to be fair, I did put at the start like a little asterisk.
What's the matter? You said you whispered it. I don't know how to tell you this. You cannot whisper on Twitter. It's not possible. It still looks exactly. You can shout on Twitter, but just keep little things like unbelievable.
Well, I tried to cover myself, didn't work. Right, you both kind of referenced it there, and something that I wanted to dive into, because pre-game, everyone was talking about what the lineup was going to be and everything else. I tweeted it in the way that we understood that it was going to be, hence why it was a back four, and it was for the most part. Some of you have already referenced this. Charlie has brought it up, so I'm going to shamelessly promote this if you haven't already. Kerry, thanks for this as well. I've already written a piece on this for the cutback, kind of diving in a little bit in terms of what we saw. Yes, I literally got home quite late on Saturday night and watched 4.5 hours of this game on repeat, watching it back. So if that doesn't explain kind of how we set up, I don't know what will. But Charlie, as you kind of said a bit earlier on, this was not a back four that we set up in. In and out of possession, this was very different. And it wasn't, the reason why I say it wasn't a back four is because West Ham didn't have a lot of the ball, meaning we could play a back three for the majority. Now, a lot of people seem to have, and rightly, because it's one of the flaws I pointed out, that Tooney in that position for me doesn't seem to work. One of the reasons, she just drifts far too centrally, and it's almost like she's getting in other players' way then. What did you think of the system overall? Because it was a stranger, wasn't it? Jade's almost now like a third centre-back. Your left-back is essentially a winger with her and Geyse. It's a complex one, I think, to get your head round. But what did you make of it overall? Obviously, we won 3-0, so clearly it worked to some respect. But what were the kind of positives and negatives that you saw in it?
I mean, we're happy because I won. I know that's maybe sort of like quite a simplistic way of looking at it, but that's what football is, right? You win the game, and that's good. It's better than you not winning the game. But it was interesting. So obviously, it worked against West Ham. We had the majority of possession. It worked fairly well. I liked it when we played with when we were out of possession, the 4-2-4, which wasn't often, but when we were, particularly in the first half, I liked that. I thought the front four pressed really well, and then one of Nalsund or Janssen also supported with that. I think that worked really well in the first half. I do think there was a bit of a gloss on the scoreline. I think Barry sort of mentioned it a little bit earlier. West Ham did have one or two chances, I think, where we were a little bit sloppy in possession, but that just might be early season rustiness. But we were caught out at times on the left-hand side, I think, when we were in possession of a ball and then we lost possession either from a loose pass or West Ham won the ball back, because Galton was very high up the pitch. And like you said, Tooney a lot of the time had come in quite central, even though clearly from the initial setup she was meant to be more out on the left, she was coming quite central. And I don't mean this disrespectfully, but because it was West Ham who player for player are sort of lesser than us, we dealt with it. I do wonder if against one of the better, more technical sides, we will come up against greater difficulty if we don't get that left-hand side right. That would be my concern. But I quite like the idea of Janssen playing as the DM. I think she did pretty well. Again, her passing was probably a little bit sloppy, but she's actually known for her build-up play and her passing. So I'm sure that will come again. It might have just been first game nerves or first game rustiness. But I don't know at the moment whether I think it was not quite the right personnel in what was a fairly good setup, which created a few issues that could be exploited by better sides, or whether it's just a setup that won't work against better sides. I don't know. I don't know what you two think about that, really. I'm not sure.
I mean, it's why I pointed the flaw out in my piece that I wrote, because, I mean, TJ, what you're saying there, I feel like it was intense.
Yeah.
She was supposed to, she's played, essentially, the system is you've got Tooney and Grace essentially as two 10s, very kind of inverted wingers, if you want to call them that, but in the 10 position, playing just off turn. And that's the idea. And your width is provided by Galton and Geyse on the flanks, essentially. So you want them narrow. My issue with the Tooney position was she was going so far sent into the centre, she was getting in Turland and Grace's way because she ended up on the right. I took a few stills of this yesterday. Saturday night when I was going to the game. There was a lot of occasions she was on the far right. Now, you don't want Ella Toon in Grace and Jace's position. There's a little bit of rhyming there for you, because she is essentially the left inside forward. Now, that's fine when you've got the ball. The second you lose it, you've got Galton who's playing as a left winger, and you've got nobody else in that whole left-sided space. So that would be where I point out potential flaw. But I don't know. I mean, Barry, what did you think? 'Cause I was happy with it. I can't lie. I thought when we pressed as a team. I thought that front four of Tooney, Turland, Geyse, and Geyse on the right-hand side, I thought they pressed really well together. There's some teething things, but I thought overall I was pretty happy with it. I just think it's maybe a couple of personnel changes in there.
I think it's just interesting, isn't it? It's hard to cut out the noise as a Man United fan and try and work out what is the majority and what is just, whingy Victor Meldrew type people that you're never going to please. At the end of the day, Mark Skinner was told off for the last 3 years, actually, about not being good enough tactically. What we've seen, I think, this weekend was a manager who has attempted to do something that is tactically different. Now, there's going to be positives and negatives to everything he does. Doesn't matter how you do it. There'll always be something where you look at it and go, well, that was positive, but this could go wrong. Oh, she's drunk something bad there. You all right there, Charlie?
Yes, it went down the wrong pipe.
Oh, that's not good.
So I actually showed real restraint there.
You did very well.
Go down the wrong tube here. That's really tough. I think admirably.
I think you've nailed it. Absolutely brilliant. Because you made it. To be fair, you really toughed that out because you made it just look like it was a little bit distasteful. Yes. Not like you were actually going through a severe amount of pain. So fair play to you, madam. I doff my invisible cap to you. Superb stuff. What was the question again? The system. The balance wasn't brilliant for me in that respect because of the fact we were putting Leah Galton all the way up on the left-hand side. It gave Ella Toon this opportunity to keep coming back into the middle. And I suppose really if I had my sort of tacticky board up on the screen, I could show that a little bit more as to what I meant. But the fact that you had Geyse up there as a right winger, but you've also got Jade Riviere who was doing that on the overlap, but you didn't really have that so much on the left-hand side. It always seemed to be a case of Galton was coming up, giving the ball to Tooney, and Tooney would knock it back for Galton. It was always Galton that seemed to be coming in to the box that way from the left-hand side. I think there is something about that kind of needs a change, and it does lend itself to believing that maybe somebody like Grace Clinton or Ella Toon or even Lisa Nolson potentially could be dropped to allow for a left back to come in, such as Gabby George or Sandberg, so that they can do what Jade was doing and allow that width and that balance to be there. So I think when you look at a personnel issue, it could well be that. I suppose the big question for me there, that there's lots of people talking about, can we do that all the time? I think it's really important. It's really important that we just give this a chance to bed in. Give it a bit of support, give it a chance, see how they're going. At the end of the day, it won the match. Now, will it win the match against Chelsea? Probably not, because it might be a little bit too adventurous. But there is an element of us having to understand that we want to be in a position where we put up such a good way of playing tactically that the people that come and play against us have to change their way of football against us. So all these people that are constantly in the chat giving it the old, we wouldn't do that against the top three, or it's not the right way of doing things. Let me be incredibly clear. If you're also then going to sit there at the same table and say we should be winning things year after year and all of that sort of jazz, well, that only happens when people change their way, because what you're effectively saying is that there's 3 teams better than us in this league that we have to change our tactics for in order to be able to beat them. And if that's the case, then you're quietly saying you think we're going to finish 4th and out of the European spots. So for me, just keep playing it, learn it, work it out, little tweaks here and there if you need to. Pop Lisa Nolson back, so you've got effectively a back 6 there if you need to. But keep going with it, because I think there was far more positives than negatives. We did lose the ball a bit in the second half. We did lose our shape, but then when you're 3-0 up and you're not feeling troubled, these things happen. Then you do get a little bit of complacency in these games. We had it in the Stevenage game that we played at the weekend, 5-0 up, we were 4-0 up after 19 minutes. So how'd you go 71 minutes without scoring another goal effectively? Because, the game's won. I think we felt the game was won, and it was just a shame that we didn't score more. I think we could have done. But for a first outing, absolutely delighted with it.
Yeah, I agree. I said so to Eamon next to me. I think as soon as that third went in, you could tell we kind of dropped off a bit. And to be fair, players did look a bit leggy at that point as well. And I'm not surprised because this system is heavily reliant on energy and pressing from the front. So players are going to get tired throughout the game, probably a bit earlier. And there's a reason they've been trained very hard over pre-season, because this system is going to require a lot of fitness from the players. And not all of the players have got it yet. I think that was evident when you start making the changes that we were not cohesive again. The press was not there when Rach came on, and Hinney and Bizet as well, and these kind of players who I thought were good individually, but I thought the team as a whole after that was just a bit all over the place. And I think part of that is because, one, you're 3-0 up. Two, I don't think they quite understand the system during the game. And West Ham did adapt a bit throughout the game as well. So there is that as well. So I'm happy with it. I agree. I think if he's going to go with this, he's got to stick with it. There's no point doing this for 2-3 games. You lose one and then ditching it, because that's a complete waste of pre-season and a complete waste of the players learning all of this. As I said, that left side of Galton and Toon is the only question I would have. And like I said, I think when Gabby is fully fit, she takes over from Galton anyway. So I'm quietly optimistic. I like it because it is very attacking. It's very, although we didn't see a goal from her, it is very much set up to get the best out of Turland as well. And it's why I put in my piece. I think there's going to be some players that really benefit from this. However, on the flip side, there are going to be some players that fall through the net and maybe don't reach their full potential. But if it wins us games, to be honest, I'm not that fussed. Like if we go on a big winning run, I think that's the main thing. So, as I said, there's argument. We'll see as the season goes on. This could not work. We could see this in a few weeks' time, and it's just not working. Ultimately, we're one game, so we can only go off what we've seen so far. So we shall see, I guess, on that one. One to keep an eye on. It's intriguing. I like it. It's something new. Because as Charlie said a bit earlier on, for the last couple of seasons, it's been the same. It's been pretty much the same team, same kind of system, same everything. This is something a bit different, and I like that. Because you've got to be prepared to take risks. I said at the start of the season, for Mark Skinner, he knows he's on a one-year performance review, essentially. He's got to earn himself a new contract. I think he's took a big risk. And that's the thing with a big risk. It'll either pay off or it's going to look pretty ridiculous. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. The last kind of thing, there's a lot of people asked, or I'll say a lot of people, a few people have asked about the attendance. I can give you United's official word on the attendance. They say they don't have it. Make of that what you will.
Well, I do think about the attendance. I don't think for 1 second it was negative 12,000. I don't think that's even possible, TJ. There were 12,000 people that had tickets but didn't turn up. It was that bad. We actually sold 24,000 tickets, but half of them didn't turn up. So, terrible. But
yeah, if I had to guess, it was probably around 10,000, something like that. But there's a reason no one posted about the attendance and everything else, because that was the line that was span.
But the side we were looking at looked very full.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I reckon it was about 10. Yeah, it was decent enough for what was sold and so on. But there we go.
Hang on a second. I'm not having this 1 minute, because I'm sure Charlie's going to help me out here. So TJ just said that's not a negative sign. Can we just be clear that I just put up there? That definitely looked like that's a negative sign, isn't it?
Yeah, negative 12K.
Thank you very much. She's a maths teacher, so don't be coming at me.
Or maybe means subtract 12K, but I still don't know what that means.
That's the symbol for about. What schools have you gone to?
About?
It absolutely isn't. It's a bloody dash, which is also known as a.
To be fair, everyone's saying it's an approx sign. I think you two are outvoted here.
No, it isn't. That doesn't mean approximate. That's a load of
lie. Look, I was going to show you it now. I think it's a squiggly line.
I was going to say it.
There you go.
Oh, there we go.
That's approximately.
Approximately.
See. That's outrageous.
You could use that little dash as some sort of literary tool as another option for a bullet point, but you need to be really clear that you're writing a list.
To be fair, TJ, I think where the confusion is here, yours has only come through as one little swiggle, and a prox is two, one under the other, as Charlie's just drawn there.
There you go. Was it a squiggle though? It's a straight line.
Look like a straight
No,
line.
it is definitely a squiggle. I can see it online.
Oh, it is a squiggle. Yes. It's a very, very faint squiggle. TJ, I take it back. I can see what you're trying to do there. It's still only one line. But yes. Can see a little bit there. Isn't it like this? See? We've even made a debate out of maths.
Literally, you did it all on this show.
There's a joke there, and I've brilliantly dodged it. So proud of myself.
I accept now that it wasn't a straight line. I accept that, but it's not a recognised mathematical symbol for approximate. The universal language of maths. That's the beauty of it.
There we go. Wow, that's amazing.
There we go. I'll tell you, this channel we do it all. We spoke through the game. Here we go. Oh, TJ, this is far too technical for me. Can we just go back to talking about players? Yes, Mike, it is.
Star Wars and maths, two things that Connor knows nothing about.
Hey, in school, maths was my highest grade. I love you know.
Was it?
Well, I mean, what was it?
Wow.
The two.
No, I got a B in maths. I love you know.
Are you old enough to do letters?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Much bit easier.
I mean,
I think we were the last year to do.
The way Connor talks, he's like 18 or something. Oh, guys, look how young I am compared to you lot. Don't even know what
You
Star.
wouldn't think he's 42, would you?
Star Wars.
Lanzo, you good? Here we go. Another one for the brand coming through.
Yes.
Let's go. That'd be amazing, wouldn't it? Charlie could do the GCSEs. I could do the SATs. Oh, what a time to be alive. I believe the mathematical answer to this question is the height of the cliff divided by 2 times by 7.3.
I don't even want people to start guessing, to be fair.
I do. How old do you think Connor is? And I will accept a little squiggly line for an about if you was if you're really in for it.
Well, it's in my Twitter bio, so it's pretty obvious. But I'm sorry, I don't know what's going on here.
I've lost. Ooh,
Well.
Joseph's done you dirty. I love I've got all Patrice Evra. 34. Woo. 27, 26. Love that. The answer to this question, Ansel, delicious. That's what pie is. Wow. Whoa, Emily! Oh, my new favourite person. That's unreal.
The beard. It'll be the beard.
I'm just going to walk out in a minute.
Shave off that.
There was a few of you got it correct. So JJ and is that it? Is that only JJ that got it correct? Literally one person. There we go. So JJ, now you're my favourite. So
I mean, there are lots of possible ages people could have guessed, Connor. You can't be cross that only one person guessed the actual number.
True.
Yeah, shocking.
I
I
like
can't
the
believe
one that said it was 79.
It's exponential. Pardon?
I like the one that said it was 79.
I can't believe there's ones in the 30s. Oh, that's just shocking. Anyway, speaking of maths, should we end the predictions? Predictions. Oh, I've lost it now. The player of the match poll. John. Well. Oh, Lance, I don't get into all this wiggly line dash thing again. Anyway, Charlie, you said your player of the match was.
Well, Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, go for it. Go for it.
I voted for Geyse Clinton. I thought she ran the midfield. She worked really hard. I thought she pressed incredibly well. She won the ball back often. Although not quite as often as Nisa Nelson, but she did. And she topped it off with a lovely, lovely goal. Oh, look at the poll results. Everyone got a vote. We love that, don't we?
I'm on mute. Barry, who would you have gone for?
Who would I have gone for? Well, I wrote down 4 player of the match based on the 4 people. Well, even not based on the 4 people out of the 11 that we saw starting the game. I went for Lisa Nolsson, actually. Just every time I looked up midfield, she was winning the ball. She was passing the ball. Obviously.
Every time you looked up?
Sorry?
What do you mean every time you looked up? What else were you doing?
Well, got to go on the phone sometimes as well, haven't you, to tweet and check things. It's a very busy life when you're sitting there and you've got to do a show that night as well for the men's channel. And people are, honestly, my phone doesn't stop. I went onto WhatsApp today, having come out with 109 messages. 109. It's mental. I talk about the amount of work this chap does. My God, 109.
Hang on, can we just pause here a second? How on earth did Maya get 26 fantasy WSL points? Is it that ridiculous she plays one, or is it the actual proper one that works?
No. She. If you captained her, I think it was 26.
Oh, right.
She got 13.
Okay, sorry.
So Barry went for Nelson, Charlie went for Clinton. I put on my tweet that I stand by. I think Clinton or Mayer, I think, are probably my two shouts. I'd probably give it to Clinton, to be fair. I think she was exceptional. She was all over the pitch. She got the goal. She was excellent on the ball as well. I think Lot mentioned earlier on. She was very press resistant as well, which I thought was a big help in midfield. But any of those 4, I feel like just options. What do you want, Charlie?
There's something important we've not mentioned. There was a standout moment in the game that has gone by unnoticed.
I think I know where this is coming. Is it to do with the goalkeeper?
Yes. Let's talk about it. What happened? What did she do that was absolutely hilarious? It was...
Are you on about the header where she just clattered to the West Ham forward?
It was hilarious because she almost murdered the West Ham player. And I can't believe how far off the line she was, because we're used to a goalkeeper who is glued to her line. I absolutely loved that. Incredible scenes. Do you know what, though? How class will she be if we need a goal in the dying seconds? Get her up there. Wendy Renard, who? Get back in your box. Look who we've got coming.
I did say that at the time, actually. I was like, she just hit that with her head. But obviously, she's on the edge of the box, isn't she? So she couldn't use her hands. She's that far. She's outside the box.
Just love stuff.
But no, fair play to her.
Yeah, class.
That team photo's not done her much justice, has it? Because everyone's quite small around her. And she's so tall, and they've stuck her on the end. She's like towering over everybody.
Primary school photo, and she is the teacher on the end. Popped on the end, the only adult in the room. Unless you're Barry. Sorry, Barry, when he takes his photos of his little class. I can't. Look, Bazza, I can say that because I'm also short. That's how it works.
Barry, you've done that the other way around. You were unmuted, and then you've just muted yourself to talk.
You didn't just go, unlike me and Bazza. You just threw me in there as if I'm the only hobbit in this room.
Sorry, we'll undo it. Me and Bazza.
I'll say it. I said it outside Wembley, and I'll say it again.
Oh, I'm not being funny. Your quiff is the size of Fallon tullis-joyce, so you shouldn't even be close to having this conversation. In fact, we could name your quiff Fallon.
I totally should appreciate that.
Oh, I don't know. Would either. What's again exactly, right?
Oh, hang on a minute.
Oh.
Barry, you might have to end this. Oh, hang on. Oh, what's going on? Right, there we go. I'm back. I'm not joking. My laptop must have liked that comment that much. It zoomed in so far into that comment. All I could see was GL because it zoomed in that far.
GL?
That freaked me out then.
I want to know where the G and the L was from.
Glass.
Glass.
Oh.
So all I could see was the first two letters.
Okay.
Shit, this is something new.
No, it isn't. My hair literally looks like this all the time.
Do you know what? This is again a good question. If you were to play football, could your actually be offside?
No chance.
Like if your head was down and the ball was played,
Depends on the referee.
Disadvantage.
Depends on the referee and depends on if you're playing Man City or not.
True story.
Anyway, player of the match poll. Grace Clinton did win it in the chat with 47%. Jason 21, Leticia 17, Nelson 13. So everyone did get a decent number of votes again for this one.
So it wasn't Lucia Garcia this time.
No, she did win last season. But no, we'll be keeping a tally throughout the season from every game, and we'll see who has the most come the end of the season when we come back round to that. But yeah, I think that's a good time to kind of round this off, and we've been going for an hour and 10 minutes or so. So it's been going for quite a while with the three of us on here, talking all about the win on Saturday. We'll be back when will we be back? Thursday or Friday? Obviously previewing West Ham. I've completely lost it. Previewing Everton. As we look ahead to that one, and then we're into Conti Cup week, which will be interesting as well. So we've got 3 games coming from Sunday in 7 days, so lots to look forward to over the next kind of few weeks. Thank you to everyone who's already voted. There's been I've keep seeing a notification come on my phone. There's so many of you that have voted for us on Instagram and on Twitter since we've been live on here. So that's massively appreciated if you have done that. If you haven't, very quick reminder, 3 places: Instagram, website's in the bio, or on Twitter as well. All you need to do is copy what everyone else is tweeting and put it there. Instagram is even easier. All you have to do is tag us in the post there as well. Make sure you're liking the video, subscribing, all of that kind of stuff. You're saying I need a rest. We're actually on our other nominated channel for the FCAs. All for Women's Football. We're live in 14 minutes time. Myself and Barry are over there. Talking all about the WSL from a wider point of view, because there are some big results this weekend that we need to dive into. So we're talking all about that over there with Laura and Beth as well. So that's going to be a good one. As I said, make sure you're liking the video, subscribing, all of that good stuff. Thank you to Charlie and to Barry, the usual Monday crew. We're back into the season for another year, and we'll see you guys later on in the week.